It's been 9 months, but we're finally back in Paloma Valley. I thought I'd lost this city forever. I had some mods that had corrupted the game, and the last recording that I did also corrupted, so I'm so happy to have revived this build. It's honestly made me a little bit emotional coming back here after so long because I forgot how many things I did in this city that I really love. You'll probably notice that the graphics look a bit different. I finally learned how to use the theme mixer tools to make the city look nice, so hopefully it looks a little bit better than it did for the previous 17 episodes. I did originally record another episode after the last one, and like I mentioned at the beginning, the video corrupted, the audio didn't save, and I lost parts of it. So I've had to piece together what I did during that build by comparing my last YouTube video to what the build looks like now. But luckily it wasn't too many things, it was only going to be a short one anyway, so there isn't that much to cover. But there are some things that have disappeared since I removed them from my asset library, and some areas that could definitely do with some improvement. So for the next couple of episodes, I will be going around Paloma Valley and fixing some of the issues that I've left myself with. I've learnt a lot about Cities Skylines 1 over the last few months because I really haven't been able to get into the second game, so it's kind of reignited my love for the first one, and I've picked up quite a few different skills from various builds that I've been doing, mostly off screen but also during my Valentino Bay city build series that I recently started. So just in case you needed an overview of the whole city, this is what we are working with. This was obviously the first district that I built, and then it kind of grew out from there. There's the first kind of built up city area down here, with the lower Strawberry Flats area being one of the most recent things I've built. There's also a high-rise area over here in the foothills of this mountain, and Gilded Beach is another new addition that's slowly being built on. There's also a new district up here, which is a mostly vanilla town with a farm right next to it and some of the water utility plants as well. You may notice that this area wasn't here before. This is something that I did in the last episode that corrupted. It's just a small forestry area to pick up some industry and give some jobs to people that live over on this side, so they're not having to travel all the way through to this forestry area here. I also did some small areas of detailing that you'll probably notice around. This includes this area out the front of the mall in Gilded Beach. I added some small detailed areas down the side and added a plaza out the front and did a little fake garden over here. I also added some more commercial to the side of the pedestrian area and a boat hotel down on the coast. This hotel is the bane of my life. It cannot place without mods for some reason. I cannot get it to sit above the waterline and not sink without using mods. So I'm not sure if the asset is just broken, but we did get it to work and look nice. I've been really enjoying playing with the day and night cycle on my off-camera builds, and I'm not going to have it cycling while I'm building, but for the intro and outro I think it does add a little bit extra to the city to see it in different lights. And with this theme, it makes the sunset and sunrise look so gorgeous. So one of the first issues that we're going to be faced with coming back into this build is death care. I think I must have had some custom death care assets placed that I removed from my library because all of a sudden everyone needs death care in every single district across the whole map. So I definitely need to put in some more cemeteries and crematoriums to handle that, and that will probably be the first thing that I do to try and improve this before we carry on building on it. So I have a lot more custom assets than I used to. I went a bit download crazy for one of my off-camera builds, so I have a lot more options, so hopefully we can find some that go better with the theme of each district. On this screen you can see that we only actually have 3 remaining death care facilities left. There's one in Queens Meadow, there's another one in Carlisle City, and then there's another one in the centre of Swan Square that you can't really see because it's underneath the name, but it's just down there. But obviously there's none down in Strawberry Flats, there's none in Gilded Beach, none in Local Heights, and there's none over in the new district here either. So let's start with the furthest away first because they'll be drawing in the cars from really far away and we want them to be a little bit more self-sufficient. This district has the European houses with generic vanilla commercial, so I think an old church would do quite well in this kind of setting. And I'm wondering if we can hide it within the trees, possibly maybe down here. I wonder how far away I can get it from one of these roads and have it still actually connected. I have this graveyard asset from the workshop that I think will work quite well, so I'll put it down here right after this intersection, and then I'll move it backwards and see how far I can get it away from the road while it's still connected. So that's about as far as I can go. I wanted to put it back here, but I don't really want to have the hearses having to go down this small residential road to get to it, so maybe that isn't the best place to put it. Maybe it can go back here instead, although that is further away from this part of the town, so let's see how the traffic is once we've got other cemeteries down, and hopefully it won't be such a big deal. So let's put it down here. I'm just going to use a forest brush to make it feel like it's a little bit kind of hidden in the trees here. Let's place some yew trees down by the road because they give great coverage and they look a lot bigger from the sky than they do from the ground. There we go, that church feels like that's been there for a really long time and the town has just been built out around it. So we'll continue building on this district later. Let's go back to the death care coverage. There are red bubbles everywhere. Let's put one in Loka Heights because they don't have one either. I'm going to stick this on pause while I'm doing this because I can see buildings disappearing all over the map because of the lack of death care. So to stop that from happening so much, let's just keep this on pause. Now, where would be the best place to put this death care? It's kind of like an intermediary district between some of the more built up ones, so I'm not quite sure what the right style would be. It's got the eco houses and the eco commercial, maybe a small crematorium. I think the other ones are either a little bit too fancy or a little bit too plain. So I think this would probably be the best one. And where to put it? Don't really want to put it on a main road. I also don't really want to put it next to the primary school because that's not a very good look. It has kind of decent coverage back here, but it's still not really getting to these areas. Maybe we can do what I tried to do in the other district and kind of have it off of the corner. So I know it's over a house right now, but I am going to fix that. Yes, that is still connected there. So I could even turn it diagonally if I wanted. I don't think that necessarily looks good with the other assets around it. So yeah. Yeah, let's turn it back to the way it was and line it up with the road so that the cars can still get in there. May need to place some concrete down just to cover up that gap and make it look like there's a road there. And I can probably do some decals later on to make it look like there is actually a road going down there. There we go. I'm not really a fan of this clipping on the corner, but I think this is about as good as I'm going to get at the moment, unless I were to use the concrete painter brush over these assets. No, that's not ideal. From a distance I feel like that kind of works, so let's leave it at that for now. So they'll start sending out their hearses once I've taken it off a pause. So over in Strawberry Flats, pretty much every single building needs death care, so I think we may have to place more than one. Let's put a small one down here and then put a larger one up on the top part. This is kind of more of a built up area with the Green Cities high-rise buildings. So let's see which ones might go with that. We could go with this custom asset that is really fancy. I think it would fit quite nicely on this piece of road here, although I don't know if you'd really want to have a cemetery underneath a highway. Maybe it could go up here behind the oppression office and we could kind of center it, make it a bit more of a spectacle because there's nothing else here yet. I can't actually remember if I was saving this for something. I may have been saving it and I'm just screwing myself over, but for now, let's plop this down here and just center it in this space. And then we can deal with some detailing later on. Maybe the vanilla crematorium might be the best thing to put down here. Kind of want somewhere a little bit quieter to mourn the dead. So for now, let's stick the crematorium just over here and we can deal with the actual placement of it once the death care has been sorted, because I kind of just want to have them plop down so that we're not having all of the buildings disappear. Right, where else doesn't have one? Gilded Beach doesn't have one. This is a bit more of a basic district where most, if not all, of the houses are vanilla. So let's pick a fairly generic death care for this district. Possibly even the generic vanilla cemetery. I think I'm going to move these out the way and put the cemetery on this corner here. Yeah, I think that looks like a good placement. I know it's over the road from the high school. There's a lot of other stuff going on here, so I think that fits quite nicely. So we've put one over here, we've put one in Gilded Beach, one in Strawberry Flats, one in Loka Heights. And where were the other ones? So there's one in Queens Meadow, one in Swan Square, one in Carlisle City, but there's not one down this side. So I feel like this area needs a fancy crematorium. Maybe this asset here. This is from the workshop. and it is a pretty fancy looking building. I think there's a similar one over here. Yes, it's the same asset that's used in this little death care section back here by the industrial area. So that might be good actually to continue that same theme running through. Okay, so there's a primary school over here and some parks. This main road here doesn't have anything on it, but that's the road that leads to the nature reserve. So it's probably not the best idea to put a cemetery on that road. You can see there's a load of gaps where places have already started to remove themselves, so we'll need to go back through and build some more stuff in at some point. Let's place it on this road for now, just for ease, and we can move it later on like we're going to do with the rest of them. I just want to get all of this death care sorted. I may have to place down even more just to cover the amount of people that we've got who are currently deceased. But let's press play and see what that does. Oh yep, here come the abandoned building notifications. Oh my god, they're all over. I knew I shouldn't have left it running so long in the beginning. Oh, there's so many abandoned buildings and they're all just disappearing. Oh no. Oh, this area took me so long to build and now the buildings are disappearing. Again, loads of these have gone. Even some of the commercial down on the waterfront. Okay, I think I just need to spam place a whole load of death care that have the most vehicles. So let's see which ones have the most. There's one down in Swan Square. This is a crematorium that has 7 hearses. The cemetery has 10. This one has 15. That's looking like a winner right now. And this one has 6. Okay, let's place a whole bunch of these for now, just so we can get the most amount of cars down on the road and we can fix all of these buildings that are disappearing. I guess this is what happens when you don't play a game for ages and then you remove a whole load of assets without thinking. I'll place another one down on this main road and another one over here, just so we can get the most amount of hearses out on the roads. Let's place one in this empty bit down here. I think I was saving that for a sports hall or something, but at the moment it doesn't need to be a sports hall, it can be a cemetery. There's some in the industrial area too, but thankfully not too many. Okay, hopefully that should cover everything, but I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of abandoned buildings before it gets any better. You can see the cars going out already. Right, where are they going? Oh, come on, that's just not helpful. Why do they have to go so far? It's so frustrating when the facility vehicles go so far out their own district to pick someone up, because that's taking away cars from their own district. In the time that they're traveling, more issues are going to happen and we're just going to have even more dead people. I feel like I'm just going to need to bite the bullet and just put it on fast forward through this and just deal with the aftermath. I think the issue is mostly fixed. The majority of the big death symbols have disappeared now, so I think it's safe to continue. Unfortunately, we did lose quite a few buildings during that, but luckily these were all ones that were painted in, so they should just regenerate. Only a handful of the buildings will be ones that I actually plopped, like over here, but I may redo this section anyway because coming back to it, I really don't like how this looks and I think I may want to do it in a slightly different way. So now that we've got the death care sorted, I'm going to be going through the districts and amending a few things, fixing some broken bits, adding some new assets in where ones have disappeared, and looking forward to what we can do in the future to make these districts better. So the first district that we built in Paloma Valley was Queen's Meadow. The edge of the tile goes up to about here, so obviously it hasn't really expanded very much further this way. And I am generally happy with the way that this district looks. I'm very glad that I left room for putting in pathways. I love this little tram station in the middle of the road here. I'm a very big fan of that. And it's a very walkable town. Even though it's quite sprawling, there are pathways connecting everything. So you may not be able to get there by car very easily, but you'll definitely be able to get there by foot. I'm also still a big fan of this public transport loop. This road here is just for trams and buses. There's a little bus stop down here on either side of the road, and there's a tram stop as well. And it's right next to the high school, so the buses aren't stopping on the main road and clogging up the traffic. and the trams have a space to turn around as well. So the first thing I think I want to fix is this gap in the middle here. Because this junction is quite wide, there's no tiles to zone, so I think I may need to plop a house. So let's go to the eco houses and find one that's 2 wide and 3, is it 3 deep? 4 deep. There aren't any that are 2 wide and 4 deep, so I guess we'll need to do 2 by 3 and just maybe move it back off the road a little bit. Let's go for this one here and just move this over and kind of line it up so it looks relatively okay with the road. And I think to kind of match these back gardens, I'm just going to put a couple of trees on the back here. I very purposefully used these trees all over this district to kind of give it some uniformity. So I'm just going to place one of those. I think I'm going to remove these parking spaces down here and replace them with something a little bit different. I have realistic parking on now, but I only turned it on very recently. So I don't know as if the effects will actually start to take place just yet. I don't think I want to put a car park right next to the entrance of the town. So let's have a look at what I could put here instead. What facilities do they have in this district? So they pretty much have everything because this was the first one. So they have death care, they have health care, they have fire, they actually have 2 fire stations, they have police, they have schools, an elementary school over there and a high school down here, and they have plenty of parks. That's one thing that they're not short on in this town is parks. So maybe let's have a look at the commercial eco on my Find It catalogue, because I actually downloaded some more assets for a build that I'm doing in Valentino Bay. So you might get an idea of what I'm going to be doing on that. And we could build a little market just on the entrance of the town to be a little bit more welcoming. There we go, a very, very small, very simple market, but it just makes the town look a little bit more inviting from the road, and hopefully will become a little bit of a hub for people to go to. Now this gap by the side of the cemetery, I don't remember why I left that there, if I even did it for a particular purpose. So I'm not sure whether I should move it over and have it right up next to the main road. We could then extend this road further if we do that, so unfortunately I can't move it with the official tool, so I'm going to have to use Move It for this. But let's put snapping on so I can at least get it up against the road. Right, yeah, I think that was the right thing to do, because now this road can go out this way, and that's kind of opened up this space here to be built on in the future. These houses over here on this roundabout I think do look a little bit silly. I think maybe I'm going to rezone them so that they're all 2 tiles deep instead of 4, because the 4 tiles deep is just maybe a little bit too big. So let's remove all of those and let them zone back in. I'm also going to fill that bit of concrete in the middle of this roundabout. I think I also originally planned to put one of the shopping malls along the back here. I can't remember exactly which one it was. Was it that one maybe? I do feel like that's a little bit too wide though. So let's have a look for one that's slightly shallower and thinner. I think unfortunately I'm out of ideas of what to put on the end here that's actually going to fit. So none of these are quite right. Don't really need a tram stop there, and a car park just feels a little bit silly. Maybe I'll just do this one for now. At least it's got some trees in it, and then I can think about that again later. Now that I've got realistic parking turned on and most of the roads are non-parking roads, they're gonna need somewhere to park. So hence the cars parking on either of these side roads, which I actually need to turn off there because they shouldn't be doing that. There you go. They'll now come and use the car park to park their cars, but it will probably mean there's a bit of an influx of traffic down this road. With the disappearance of the concrete blocks from the workshop, they've all disappeared from this map. There'll probably be random bits of grass all over the place where there used to be a concrete block. So I think I'm just going to go through and replace some of them like that. So if you see any that I missed, just leave me a comment and I'll come back and deal with them. I'm fairly happy overall with Queen's Meadow because it was such a thought out district when I first started building it. I really thought ahead about what I was going to need to put in and leaving space for things so I didn't have to delete anything. And obviously we can't really move much further in this direction yet, hence all of the empty gaps. But I do plan to make the insides of these areas nicer once we have built out, a bit like this bit here. Something that I was meaning to do, and I may have done at some point, but if I did, it's deleted itself, is to put a big fence in all the way down the back of this mall area. So I think I'm finally going to do that now. I'm not quite sure which fence I'll use, whether to use a brick wall or just a fence, but I will go through and just fence off the back of these areas. There we go, that looks a little bit better from the road. Let's try and find a person so that we can see exactly what it looks like. Let's just jump in this car here. Yeah, that's kind of fenced off that area. I'll probably do something with the grass that runs along this main boulevard, but for now I think that looks a little bit better. It doesn't help though that there's cars that just drive across this area, especially with these car parks placed so close to the road. They're supposed to get in it from this side, but sometimes they will just drift across, and I don't know how to stop them from doing that. It is really annoying, but I guess we'll just have to live with it. I'm going to add another strip of car parking down here just because they're going to need it. I think I have a 1x4 somewhere. There it is. That should still work perfectly fine with pedestrians being able to get past. And I'm going to fence off the back of this bit as well. I'm sure that I've already done this before, but it may have disappeared when the game corrupted. So apologies if you're seeing me do this for a second time. There we go, these are now fenced off from the back. It doesn't look any different from above, but it does from the ground when you're walking towards it. So let's just jump in this person here. There you go, you don't have all of the ugly stuff on the ground that you can see outside the back of the buildings. Obviously that's good detailing, but you don't always want to see that when you're walking through a park. So I think these fences do the job just fine. Now Swan Square is a district that I both love and hate. I love the outskirts of the district with the sprawling suburbs and the pathways in between. Some people hate sprawling suburbs. I like them when they are walkable, and I think they only really work when they're walkable, but they look so much nicer in this game than just doing a generic grid over and over again. I think the road placement is good, but I really was disappointed with these mid-century modern houses. Although they look great, the assets look amazing, they're very empty. And I'm really sorry to whoever created these assets. I'm sure you spent loads of time creating them and loads of time trying to make them look as good as you possibly could. But some of them I just feel are a little bit empty, and if you zone an entire tile depth, it will sometimes zone in the front too, but then not the back too. So this section here is technically taken up by the house, but there is nothing on it. So I can't get the trees any closer to the back of the house, so around the back of these buildings there's just these big empty spaces, and it just does look a little bit odd. So I'm rethinking the decision to do these as mid-century modern. Even though it does kind of go with the original idea for this district, I think it's just going to bug me so much to have these as partially used land. So let me have a think about what I might want to do here instead, and I'll leave these for now. Now, one thing that was a constant bugbear with this district was the centre and the commercial. I did redo the commercial area recently, and I added in all of these assets from the campus DLC, I believe they're from. I think they work quite well. There's also a few custom ones down here too, and some from the Art Deco and some unique buildings. But there was just very few assets that actually went with the idea that I had for this district. Even though there was a whole pack for Art Deco, there wasn't actually enough assets to flesh out a town centre. So I think I got it to a decent point, but it does feel a little bit empty in some places, and especially this road here. We've got this legacy bus stop still here that still exists from quite a while ago, where these people just won't leave this bus stop that doesn't exist anymore, so you just ignore them. But I just don't feel like the commercial really works as well as I'd want it to, possibly because of the round roads, but also because of the limited amount of assets that I've got to work with here. But I think I'll definitely redo this road here just to make it look a little bit nicer. Or I could completely bulldoze the entire centre of this district and completely start from scratch so that I'm not facing the same problems over and over again. What do you think I should do? Do you think I should leave the road layout as is and just try and build around it? Or do you think I should gut the inside of the district and start from scratch and maybe make the road layout a little bit better? Near the entrance to this district is something that I worked on towards the end of the last few episodes of this build. It's the area outside of the main train station. I built this kind of plaza area next to the transport museum and put some parking in. But there is this big space on the end here. I did have ideas of what to put here originally, but the assets that I wanted to use just weren't the right size, and I didn't want to change the roads. So I need to think about what's going to go in here. If you have any ideas of what might look good here, what could work, whether it should be another park, whether it should be some sort of unique building, or possibly a facility of some sort. And the parks on this side have also disappeared. I think I know exactly which parks these were, and I don't remember removing these assets, so maybe this is just broken. But I'll have to redo the park on either side of this car park area here, because this is looking a little bit too empty for my liking. And you can also see that the traffic is quite bad. Obviously, one of the biggest gripes about this map was that there is only one real entrance off of the highway here. We built a second one, but they still have to go all the way through the centre of the city to get to where they're trying to go to, and we won't be able to connect it up to any other highway entrance until we've got all the way down here with the tiles. And that's not going to be for quite some time because we're playing this with milestones on, and I think we've either used up all of the tiles that we have, or we have one possible tile left. Can't remember exactly which one it is off the top of my head, but I don't want to go wasting the purchase of tiles just to get to the other end of that highway. So this traffic isn't great, but to be honest, you're not going to have a city with a population of 30,000 people without having a little bit of traffic. So I'm not trying to get it to absolute zero, but it would be nice to maybe cut down on it a little bit. Loka Heights is a very small district, but I feel like it's not using the space to the best it could be. There's big gaps in the middle of the roads over here with nothing really in them, and I don't want to make these districts too dense, but I also don't want to be wasting the space that we do have. So I may redo parts of this district at some point, maybe redo the road layout a little bit and try and make it a little bit more visually appealing. Strawberry Flats is one of the most recent areas that I've worked on, and it is a bit of Spaghetti City from the sky because of these kind of 3 interchanges here. But as you can see, the traffic really isn't that bad. So I think adding all of these different slip roads has really helped with trying to alleviate some of that pressure. Even the roads down here are a lot quieter than they used to be. This was backed up in both directions before at this junction, so I think adding this road here has helped a lot. I can't remember if I did that on camera or if that was in the episode that corrupted, but there is an extra road there. If you knew about that already, then great. If you didn't, then there it is. This train station here I think is one of my favourite things that I've ever done in City Skylines. This is a glass top metro station that is under the ground, and then this road is a bridge that goes over the top with a pedestrian bridge on either side and has a sunken road running down the back with quays on either side. Obviously these areas out the back aren't finished just yet, but I just am obsessed with the way that this looks. And I just wonder how I even came up with this in the first place. Like, this was a long time ago that I did this. It's definitely something that I want to repeat in other places. When I was going through the city before starting this recording, I realised how silly these areas here next to this flyover road look. So I think I may continue the parking all the way underneath here. It makes more sense to have parking covered up by a bridge than to have any sort of park area underneath there. And there's going to be plenty of other park areas around here, so it's not like they're going to be missing out on anything. So now that we've got the realistic parking turned on, let's add some parking under here. This could work possibly if we do ones back to back there. It's hard to tell if that's going to be too low. Let's grab a person from down here and have a look. Do you reckon that they could fit cars underneath that? I'm very low to the ground here, so I can't really tell. You might be able to fit a car under there, maybe a bike under the lower bit. I'll let it play through for a bit and wait for someone to drive into this parking space and see if I can find someone going to one of those spaces. And I'll add in these bits for now. Just realised I've been doing this all with Prop Anarchy on, so there's trees everywhere in all of these car parks. Hopefully that's fixed it. So let's see if anyone's coming to this car park and we can see if that piece of road is maybe too low. Right there. Okay. They are right underneath. Oh, that is not an angle that a car should be at. What on earth is going on there? What? I don't think cars are supposed to park like that. I mean, it's space saving, but that's not quite the right angle to be parking at. Anyway, even though this car is on its nose, it can actually still fit underneath this bridge. So at the very least, we know that it's not too low down. Maybe that's why there's only the sports cars in these parking spaces here, because everything else would be too tall. So I wonder what this car is doing. Is it leaving the car park? No, it was just parking. Oh, that's handy. There's some invisible lifts installed. I feel like these are going to make the traffic very, very strange, but they use up the space that wouldn't otherwise be used. So let's just chuck another couple of car park spaces in there. So add one of those and one of those. There we go. Hopefully that should be enough parking for them. I know it's not ideal to have loads of parking and it's not a very European thing for me to do, but with the TMP mod they will be just driving around town until they can find somewhere to park. And if I put the traffic screen on right now, it's not good. It's really not good. So many of these buildings are red because they need parking. And even buildings like this mall in Gilded Beach, there's loads of parking out the front, but it's obviously not enough. So I'll probably have to look at multi-stories for the mall. But for now, let's stick in Strawberry Flats. The high school says that it needs some. It's got a small car park down there, but maybe that might be a good thing to fill this space here. Might be able to find a decorative one actually. So let's do 4 deep. That's an industrial one. Parking garage could work. That's a bit more of a brutalist one there. Maybe not. That's an interesting looking one, but I don't think I necessarily want to have that kind of parking garage right next to the entrance. Maybe it's something that I could put underneath the highway actually. It's not exactly like you're going to see that from above. Won't quite fit. Oh, it's slightly too tall. Maybe we can just put a regular parking thing under here and then at least use that space up for something. Could use one of these for now and just move it over so it's not clipping with the cemetery. And yeah, that will do for now. It will add some parking in for the people that need it. We can come back and change it later. I feel like I'm saying that about a lot at the moment, that I'll come back and change it later. But I will, I promise. I'm just trying to get to grips with this new city again. It's been such a long time since I've built here that I genuinely don't remember what I had planned to do. The last thing that I'll look at for today's episode is the industrial park along the back of Strawberry Flats. This again was one of the most recent things that I did, and I still very much like the way that it looks. There is a building here, it looks like it disappeared because of the death wave, and I probably want to put a key in along this river at some point to get rid of that jagged edge and make it feel a little bit more like a city rather than just an industrial park on a bank. I don't think there's anything here that needs immediately fixing, so let's just put in this building here. I think it was one of these that was maybe the other way. Yeah, that feels right. It was probably a different one before, but I genuinely can't remember what would have been there. So this industrial area looks like it's actually fared quite well. I'll probably come through and do some detailing on it at some point, but for now, this is, I think, all I'm going to do for this episode. I'm going to be honest, it's quite scary coming back to Paloma Valley after so long, because I have forgotten most of my aspirations for this build. And I'm sure that if you've just watched the first 17 episodes, it doesn't feel like any time has passed at all, but it's been more than 9 months since I've done anything on this city. And during that time, every single one of my mods and assets has been removed from our Steam library because of a glitch, which has then been re-downloaded, which then caused issues. There's been problems with our computer, so I really feel like I'm starting from square one with this city. But it's a really, really good base to work on because I put so much time and effort into building this up to this point so far. Whether I remember my aspirations for it or not, it's still going to end up being a good build because it's got good bones. I really want to thank you if you're still here after all of that time. I know that it was probably really frustrating that I started a Let's Play and got so far into it and then stopped. I really wish I could have continued it at the time, but with all of the issues that happened with the game and then my personal life and my business life getting extremely busy, I literally didn't have the time to play the game for about 2-3 months in the middle there, and I went for quite a long time without having any time to myself. I was working pretty much 24/7, and that isn't really even an exaggeration. So it's nice to come back. As one of my favourite subs said the other day, it feels like we're coming home. Don't forget to check me out on TikTok and Instagram. I'm Cozy Skylines on both platforms. I post extra stuff from all of the builds that I'm doing, including ones that are off camera. And to be honest, they are a little bit better than this one, so you get to see some very different and quite cool things that I've been doing on there, as well as some really beautiful visuals, some public transport first person views, and a few little speed builds here and there. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope there will be a next one.